What I got here is got my old suitcase, thrift store special, $5. Got my little battery powered amp, so I can take this bad boy anywhere. And got my microphone. Got this little thing called a chaosator down here that I use to make all my spaceship sounds and stuff like that. I actually think the batteries are dead in that, but I don't have to play that right now. But then I got the accordion, my boiler pan over here with the a tambourine on it, and then that's pretty much it, man. Like, all this fits onto that dolly over there, and then I just throw it in the back of the van, or sometimes I'll even hop on the bike and just pull it behind me, you know what I mean, and just kind of hang on to it. But I'll set this up on the boardwalk or over on the sidewalk, in Norfolk, and do the darn thing, and people love it. So they throw tips my way and money my way, and I've used that to pay for bills, to pay for whatever I need. So, but started out with the accordion. I taught myself how to play this bad boy, and then I saw a guy doing a one-man band type thing on the internet, using the suitcase and stuff like that. So I just kind of stuck them both together, and then I've got my thing going on. But what I do is I just start off with a little accordion stuff, like something like this. That's it. Pretty cool, right?
So Daniel, me and you are just getting a chance to meet each other, and we're just now getting a chance to get to know each other. I've learned a little bit of your story. You've shared that with me. We've got a chance to see some of the music that you do. You're a super talented guy. I want you to introduce yourself to all of us here and, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, my name is Daniel Neal. I've been in Hampton Roads for probably, since I can remember, really. Military family, everything like that, and kind of jumped from high school to high school, and ended up graduating out of Smithfield, and went to community college in the area. Had a bunch of different jobs, but my main focus was in theatrical production, stuff like that, doing lighting and audio and sound and everything. I've been here since I was 11 years old, and been doing my thing, and been making music, pretty hardcore for the last, 5 years. Been in bands pretty much my whole life, but really took it seriously, starting about 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago, and just been doing my thing and trying to keep my head above water.
Keeping your head above water is something that you've definitely had some struggles with.
Yeah.
Tell us how old you are, and tell us a little bit of what you've been through in terms of the struggles.
Well, I'm 36 years old, and definitely in the last 5 years have had some of the probably largest challenges, biggest challenges I've ever had in my life. And it's all due to, just falling head deep into an addiction. Probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do was go through that whole situation. It was very difficult, very life-changing. Up until that point, really everything had been going good in my life, and I really don't have, an excuse for using drugs in the first place. I had my mom asking me, she's like, "Oh, what was going on with you? Were you depressed? Was this or that happening? Were you hanging out with the wrong people and stuff like that? And for me personally, it wasn't any of that stuff. I had a great place to live. I had good relationships, plenty of money and stuff like that. It really just kind of came out of left field. For some people, they started using drugs because of just lifelong hardships or lifelong pain. For many reasons. For me personally, it just really came out of left field. I guess I could say that, one or two of my associates started me down that path, and in not really being aware of how dangerous, those drugs are, not only for your health, but for, your relationships and your finances and your family and everything like that. Just thinking that, oh, that couldn't happen to me, and I've got this and whatever. We're just trying to experiment, that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Let's talk about your music, because it was through your music that you found some success. And you said that you were doing really good with the music. And, talk about what you do. You're a street performer. Talk about the success that you found with that.
I had worked on a cruise ship, and I got off the ship, and after the ship, you've got some time before you go back to work. I had a couple months, and it was the middle of summer, and I got my hands on an accordion, and I'm somebody who can kind of pick up an instrument and make something happen with it. So that started off with the accordion in this respect. And I wanted to get out there and make some extra money and just see what I could do with it. So I did. I got the accordion and just went out on the sidewalk at the Narrow Theater over in Norfolk and just started playing. And then, money started coming my way. And it was enough money just to handle, this and that's, grocery store visits, whatever, throw a little bit of money, for rent and whatever. And then once I started doing the one-man band thing, where I added the percussion and everything to fill it all out, double, triple that money. And then eventually got the attention of a photojournalist from the Virginia Pilot. They did a whole video on me and a whole, I was in the newspaper and all that stuff. And from there, I started getting shows left and right all over Norfolk. Started a band, like I was telling you earlier, with the Janks. And between my solo shows and playing with that band, I'm playing, a few times a month and making good money, just networking and connecting and playing weddings, playing events, playing shows. Eventually the city of Norfolk came along and they picked me up. And so I'm doing fest event stuff and stuff with Virginia Stage Company. So, as far as being able to do what you love and express yourself musically, I was able to do that and get paid to do it. And so that was wonderful. It was great.
So you were seeing this form of wild success. You're doing what you love to do, and then the drugs come along.
Yeah. So it was just kind of random, man. I had dabbled in opiate drugs before, painkiller pills and stuff like that. And I'll take them and feel good and feel nice and enjoy myself for a day or two, but never did I take them and then all of a sudden I'm hooked, and I got to do it every day. I never had that issue before. In this particular case, an associate of mine introduced it to me, but then started calling me on a daily basis asking if I wanted more. He's like, hey man, are you trying to pick up some more today? Are you trying to pick up some more? And at the time I had plenty of money and I didn't really respect the power of opiates, you know what I'm saying? Especially, drugs that you get off the street. You don't really know how strong any of that stuff is. So I'm taking it, every day, but I'm still practicing, I'm still doing my music thing. And some part of me was thinking, that this might inspire me in some kind of a way or another. And so before I knew it, a month or two had gone by. And by the time I realized that my associate is really just scamming me for my money, and doesn't really care about me or my health, because he's allowing me to go pick up drugs every day. I try to stop, and I feel like shit. I can't do anything that day, and I've got a show coming up. I've got other stuff coming up, and so that started the vicious cycle of not really being able to function without getting high. And so I've got shows coming up, I've got this coming up and that coming up, and you feel terrible in the morning. And at first it wasn't terrible, but you're uncomfortable enough to where you feel like you got to keep using. And before you know it, it just snowballs. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And that's precisely what happened to me. Everything that they say, can happen to you through addiction is exactly what happened. And it turned me from somebody who was, upright, stand-up dude, to somebody who's willing to lie, rob, and steal in order to keep getting my drugs.
When did it really fall apart for you? Because the addiction is here, the music is here. When did it all fall apart? How did it all fall apart?
Well, that's a question I feel like can have a few different answers, and then that depends on what you consider fall apart. I would say it started falling apart, the moment I started using, but I also could say that the physical, like literal moment it was falling apart was once I got served, a 30-day notice to vacate my house. And I had a great place to live in a great spot. For what it was, very affordable, nice big house. And I had a lot of very expensive music equipment, all sorts of nice things, big TVs, projectors, sound systems, everything that a 30-year-old man could want. And I'm just losing it. I'm losing all of it. I put my stuff into storage. I wasn't able to pay that bill, so I lost all my music stuff. I lost my house, lost my bed, lost all of it. And so, within a year and a half's time, I went from having everything I'd need and on my way, to bigger and better things to basically living on the streets. And the only reason I wasn't on the street is because people who I'd known who weren't aware of my current status of addiction were willing to bring me into their homes. And that eventually fell apart, and because of me stealing and lying and taking complete advantage of those people in those situations. And then that eventually led me to getting locked up for the first time.
And what would you end up getting locked up for?
Stealing and robbing, I was taking people's money. I was using people's debit cards and credit cards to withdraw money out of the account, without asking and stuff like that. And, they were trusting enough to give me access to that stuff. And again, unbeknownst to them, I had a extremely bad addiction problem at that point. And, next thing you know, it's, hundreds and hundreds of dollars are missing. And they felt like they had no choice but to turn me into the police.
So you would get these charges, you would end up getting locked up. How much time would you do, if any time, during this?
Well, it's kind of crazy. When you first get locked up, you really don't know what's going to happen. You don't know when you're going to get out again. It's all very up in the air, whether you can pay bail or not, stuff like that. But my very first time after court and sentencing and everything, I did a full straight 10 months, without seeing the light of day.
So you're locked up for the very first time ever. And again, you were in a position in life where you were going places, music was going to take you there, you had everything. You fall down to the depths of knee deep in addiction, you get locked up for these theft and robbery charges, and now you're doing 10 months. And where are you doing this time at?
Did my 10 months at Norfolk City Jail.
One of the worst jails in this area.
Yeah. I haven't been to any other jails, but I can tell you it was not a pleasant experience whatsoever.
What was this experience like for you? Were you taken advantage of? Were dudes trying to fight with you? Like, how was your time? And then again, you're trying to kick this addiction at the same time because you're forced to.
Yeah. Well, it's, a little bit of all that, nothing extreme. I'm a little bit bigger of a guy, and generally people didn't mess with me. But, there are times where, tempers and attitudes flare, but I handled all that stuff. I would say probably the first 6 months were tough because I'm detoxing not only physically but mentally, all of the crazy things that I had done while using drugs, and all that guilt and even things I didn't remember doing until I'd sobered up, all that stuff came down on me at once, and I'm guilty about, the lying and the robbing and the stealing, I'm also guilty about, just not being as in touch with my family as I should be, all of that. So you got to process all these feelings, all this guilt in probably the worst situation that you can imagine, that just doesn't really do much to give you any sort of therapy or any sort of support mentally. I mean, they had some programs here and there and stuff like that, but there's not really much you can do. You're in punishment. You know what I mean? So it was tough, and pretty much everything that you could think of that you deal with in jail, I dealt with a little bit of that. You know what I mean? Nothing extreme, but it was all there. All the stuff that they talk about, it was all there to one extent or another.
This is your first time ever getting locked up. You do 10 months. That's a long time for somebody who's never done any time before.
Yeah.
You do. You get released. Do you have a game plan to get it right? Do you have a game plan what are you going to do when you get out, and what do you do?
Well, you think about it every single day. Oh, I'm going to do this when I get out, and oh, I have the world is yours. You're starting from scratch. You're getting a second chance. You sit there and daydream all day long about what your options are, what they can be, or what you might possibly do. But I remember my priorities were to just get back out there and just start off from where I had left off, the day before I started using drugs. Obviously, I'm starting off without a place to live, without a place to stay, without money and stuff like that. But that's what I wanted. I wished that all that could just have never happened, and I could just start right back to where I was.
You wanted to get right back into the music.
Yeah, I wanted to get right back into playing and to start off from scratch, basically. With that, wasn't very realistic. I really just wanted to get stable. I wanted to get a place to stay. I wanted to get money rolling back in and reestablish myself in the community, reach out to the people that I had wronged in whatever way I may have, and pay, reparations and restitution and stuff like that. And it was really important to me to make sure that I reached out to everybody that I had, wronged in one way or another, and to make things right, and to help repair my reputation so I can continue, my spot in society where I'd left off, you know what I mean?
So you've got all of these plans of what you want to do. Would you be able to do these things, or would you realize that, it was going to be a lot harder than you thought it was?
I've always been somebody who can make something out of nothing. I've always been somebody who, give me the challenge and I can knock it out of the park. But I will definitely say I was not prepared for the challenge as much as I wanted to be, mentally speaking. And the first time getting out, the situation that I was in wasn't the worst, but I went.
Where were you? Yeah.
Yeah, I went to the Union Mission. It was a homeless shelter, and there's a lot of good things about the Union Mission. And they are genuinely trying to help people there, and I really don't have anything bad to say about them in particular. But unfortunately, the other people who are there are really the wild card in that situation. And if or when you get involved with those people, can really have an impact on your long-term goals, your short-term goals, everything. And unfortunately, with me, I had somebody reach out to me for work, and you want to start working ASAP. So I started working with these fellas, and a couple of guys on the crew were currently using. And at first I'm like, no, I'm good on all that. I want no part of it. But then, day after day of seeing these guys getting high and all the stress that you dealt with for the last 10 months, you find yourself looking for a release and looking for, just looking for something to just kind of take you out of it, So I did, and relapsed, within months of being released, while I was staying at the Union Mission.
And you relapse, you get back into the usage. Would you get kicked out of the Union Mission because of this? Like, what would happen with that part of?
Well, yeah, the Union Mission will kick you out. They find that you're using, or they can kick you out even easier than that, to be honest. But the Union Mission didn't kick me out. I left on my own volition, but directly related to my usage. I end up staying in these hotels with guys, who'd pull together their money, and then, 5 or 6 homeless people would all be jammed into these hotels. And, we're all, going out and panhandling and putting our money together in order to get drugs for the night, you know what I mean? And I'm using often enough that, I've got my probation coming up, you got to piss in a cup. And I know I'm not going to pass it. And I didn't know any better about probation, so you can go to probation and fail a couple of drug tests. They're not going to just lock you back up. I didn't know any better, so I just bucked. I was like, nope, I'm not going to probation. I'm not going to get pissed in the cup and go straight back to jail. So I just didn't go to probation at all, and then just was basically running from the law from then on. So after the Union Mission, it floated around with the worst people you can imagine for a couple of months until springtime came up. Then I went out and left those people, went and moved into the woods in Norfolk in a hammock and slept out there in like a little shelter tent thing that I put up for myself. And this is my spot, man. I had a little sleeping bag, and I would kick it here. I lived in this hammock for about 5 months in this hammock. But man, I'll tell you what, man, the bugs and mosquitoes getting eaten up. Look, you can kind of wrap up in this thing like this, you know what I mean? But it gets hot. But they would find any little crack in this thing and sneak in and bite me. So I'm covered head to toe in bug spray. I'm sweating because I'm out there riding my bike every day, 20 miles to go out to the hood to pick up my drugs or whatever. And then I'm riding to go, do my street performing thing. And I'm, carrying my, all that equipment you saw yesterday. I'm carrying all that equipment around, covered in sweat every single day. Covered in bug spray, covered in dirt and grime. And tell you what, man, any chance I had to take a shower somewhere or a decent sink bath, that's what it was all about. But before I had my shelter set up, all my shit would just get rained on. I would have to put plastic bags over my music stuff, but all this would get rained on, my sleeping bag and everything. I would hang my sleeping bag from the trees over here to help it dry out and stuff like that. But yeah, I got rained on for like 2 weeks, man. I started a little fire here one time. All this smoke was billowing out there. I thought I was gonna get busted, but I was freezing so bad one night. It was like middle of April and it got down to like 50 degrees one night. So I had to start a little fire over here. And at one point in this little area, I had a buddy of mine, I think I told you about him. He was crashing out here with me, and we got a big old blanket and we just laid that right here, and that's where he would sleep. And so, this is my little hideout for, like I said, 5 months, man. 5 months of just living in the woods. I was struggling, you know what I mean? Living in a hammock and just trying to get enough money to get by to keep, feeding my addiction or whatever. It's like you don't really have much choice. This is probably as good as it gets, and it ain't much. But yeah, man, this is the spot. Like I said, I had the water view out there, and then the geese would start honking at about 7 in the morning. They were my alarm clock. And then you can kind of see people walking through there, but nobody ever came back here or bothered me or anything like that. So it was pretty chill, pretty low key. And then right up the way, I had a spot to fill up my water bottles and charge my phone up. While I still had a phone, that went away pretty shortly after that. But yeah, man, this is my house for about 5 months. I'm somebody who definitely believes that if you put out the right energy, the good things will come your way. And in that case, I was not putting out the right energy. And while seriously bad things weren't coming my way, I still wasn't there yet, because I'm still using at that point. But I was able to sustain myself, by going out and street performing and every single day. And I did have a couple people reach out to me and, try to set me up in a house, and that stuff all fell through. But eventually I got picked up on a warrant for not going to probation and went back to jail a second time.
And how long would you end up going this time?
The second time was for 5 months. But the second time was a much better situation just because I knew what to expect in jail. And I actually kind of felt relieved, because, I had already relapsed and, I was on my way back to just becoming like I was before, just straight, lying, stealing, thieving junkie. The second time after my relapse,
I wasn't robbing or stealing anybody. I was handling my own self in that regard. But I wouldn't have expected anyone to bring me in at that point or want me to live with them or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm definitely still getting high, and if I see $20 on the counter, I'm gonna pick that up. You know what I mean? So the second time in jail was much better for me. I wrote tons of music. I did a lot of working out. I was in a much better headspace. I was able to handle it much better because I already knew what to expect, and was able to, by the time I get out, have a much better foundation to jump off of compared to the first time, and ended up working out great the second time around. And I had a little bit more support, and kept my nose clean when I got out, so I was able to reconnect with people and start doing all the things I wanted to do the first time I got out of jail before I relapsed and started using again.
So this second time that you got locked up was the last time that you've been locked up.
Yeah.
But that was recent. That was only a year ago, correct?
Yeah, it was in, I think, March 2019 I got out of jail.
So you've been out since March of 2019. And what was different about this time than the first time? You mentioned that you had support. So you obviously did you have a place to go when you got released this time?
Well, this time, rather than going straight to the Union Mission, my family, between my mother and and her husband and my stepdad, they paid for about 10 days of a hotel. And 10 days is amazing. Like, even one day in a hotel straight out of jail would be a heaven sent. But 10 days was unbelievably amazing. But I also had cultivated some relationships with other folks that were in jail, who had businesses, who were doing construction work and painting work and stuff like that. So when I got out, I immediately started working and being able to earn money. And I had a comfortable and stable place to stay. And having that.
Was that at the hotel or was that somewhere else?
It was at the hotel for the first. I ended up staying at the hotel for the first month, and I paid for it with my own money, working for the painting company. But that alone was probably one of the biggest factors in me staying sober and me getting back into society and keeping my nose clean and reconnecting with everybody and starting to repair my reputation so I can get back out there and start playing music again and be welcomed back, into the community.
So you get out, you're staying in a hotel. For a lot of people, that could be a trigger right there, because I imagine that there would be drugs there.
Yeah.
You make it, and I don't want this to sound messed up, but you make it sound easy. Like, obviously this wasn't an easy thing.
Right.
I'm sure the temptation was there to use.
Yeah.
What stopped you this time from going back down this familiar path?
Well, one of the biggest things was just not being around those types of folks. You know what I mean? The painting guys I worked with, while they may have had issues in the past or current issues, they weren't out in the forefront, and it wasn't anything that I saw or was in contact with. And also my contacts, that I had in the past, were long gone. And so anything short of me just like going out onto the street and literally, asking homeless people or asking people who look like they're obviously involved in drugs, I wasn't really, I was pretty removed from it. And the hotel situation, definitely not the best. That was the same hotel I had stayed in the past, where I was, staying with a bunch of junkies and homeless folks. So yeah, I might make it sound easy, but it's definitely wasn't the best situation. It wasn't no 4-star hotel or anything like that. But for me personally, and where my head was at, I very much was committed to not using again, and understanding that the use of any amount of heroin was just completely in the way of my goals. You know what I mean? So it had just left a seriously bad taste in my mouth at this point, and where I'd been so far with it, as spending a year and a half doing the craziest shit I can imagine, going to jail, relapsing, and then going to jail a second time. It was really at a point where there was no question, in my mind, about using again at all. It was just I wasn't even really worried about it, to be honest. But that's definitely not something that's is typical, and and I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else, and I'm not saying it wasn't, there's always going to be that presence there forever, but where I was at that time, it just had no place for me. So that made it easier for me to just move on and start doing the right thing. And I don't really have many things, or if anything, that really triggers me to the point where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I gotta go get high, a family member died, oh, I gotta go get high, or I'm just feeling down. It's never really been quite like that for me. So that definitely helped in a lot of regards. But even though I might be making it sound easy, that ain't an easy situation. Just like you said, being in a hotel alone, and especially being in that area, could be enough for many people. Being back around, specific haunts or specific places you might have been in, is enough for people to want to, start using again. You know what I mean?
From the hotel, things would improve for you. You would meet a woman, you get a relationship, and it brings us to where you are right now.
Yeah.
Talk about that situation. How does that come about for you?
Well, like I said before, man, when your heart is in the right place and your head's in the right place, and you're making moves to make the things that you want to make happen, and you're putting those good vibes out there, good things come your way. You know what I mean? And it's always been that way for me my whole life. If you're genuine with yourself, and you've got the goals that you want to reach and everything like that, and you just put out that good energy, those good vibes, that good stuff starts to come your way. And that happened to me. I was able to reconnect with some great people in my life, and I was able to reach out to people who I had wronged, and talk with people. And I started getting shows again, playing out the places I used to play in the past, and just reconnecting with people and stuff like that, and just being out there. And through street performing, I ran into my girlfriend, who has been a friend for many years, and we connected, and eventually got into a serious relationship, and then eventually we moved in together after a few months of dating. So yeah, it's been great. She's been wonderful, and she knows my past and my history and stuff like that, and has been very supportive of everything that I've gone through, and has been a great help.
Now, since you being released, you've been out since last March, I believe you said. Have you been able to maintain the sobriety? Have there been any bumps along the way?
Yeah. I can't say that I've been, fully 100%. You know what I mean? I did have some bumps along the way, but I was able to recognize it very, very quickly, and able to reach out and get help. Which is one of the hardest things to do, is to be like, oh, well, I can manage this, and this is something that I've got control over. You don't. If you feel like you're slipping, you've got to go get help as soon as possible. And so I did. I will say I don't feel like I did it soon enough. You know what I mean? I spent money that was not appropriate. You know what I mean? I spent time, and I wasn't being honest with myself or with my lady, but eventually I came out to her about what I was struggling with, and she was upset, and she felt betrayed in a lot of ways, but we were able to move past that, and just be on the same page with things, and move forward. But currently I'm in recovery, and I'm in therapy to make sure that I stay on the right path.
And how long sober do you have right now?
I would say about 2 months. 2 months completely 100%.
So you had a relapse just recently.
Yeah.
But you've got these 2 months clean now, and you had the clean time prior to when that relapse took place. When I listen to your story, one thing that separates you from a lot of people that I've met is you've got something that you're very passionate about. You've got something that you really want to attain for yourself, and that's something that you don't see a lot of people have. People want to hope to get clean because they want to do better in life, but you've got a concrete thing for why you want to be clean.
Sure.
It's right there with the talent of the music that you create. And I think that separates you to a certain degree from other people, but there's not that much of a separation. Though you have this thing, this attainable thing that you could really accomplish for yourself, you still find yourself struggling along the way.
Sure, yeah.
I guess what I want to do is I want to ask you, what is it that keeps you clean?
Well, I try to say, and this is not only something I do for myself personally, but I would hope that anybody who is struggling would do for themselves, is you have to be honest with yourself first. You have to take stock of where you're at right there in that moment and consider whether that's the person that you're okay with being. You know what I mean? And if the answer is no, then that's enough right there to move forward with trying to get help and to get clean. Being honest with myself, number one, is the most important thing. It's also very important for me to be honest with the people that I'm close to, and really with everybody in general. And that all comes with you being honest with yourself first. And that's extremely important to me. Again, talking about being able to put that good energy out there, which is something I strongly believe in. You're not able to do that if you're unbalanced and if you're not being honest with yourself. If you can't go day to day without lying to yourself, then you're not able to cultivate that everything the universe is willing to offer you, all those good things and all those blessings. So that first and foremost is what I believe is the first step to seeing where you are right in that moment, and whether that's a spot that you're willing and that you're okay with being in. And I know for most people, and everybody's different, and being passionate about something definitely helps. And but I know that I couldn't even sort of start to do my music thing without being honest with myself, without being clean, without moving in that direction. So it's like none of that stuff is able to happen before I take stock of where I am and who I want to be. And if those things aren't lined up and things are unbalanced, which drugs immediately take you out of that balance, you're not going to attain those things. They're not going to come your way. You know what I mean? So that's what helps me stay clean and stay on the right track, And of course, everything that I've dealt with in the past, never ever want to be back there again. And these drugs are just so powerful, and they're just so they just take over everything, and they take over your decisions, they take over your soul. You know what I mean? That you really don't really stand much of a fight against it. You can't just occasionally use drugs like that. You know what I mean? They will grab you by the balls, and they will drag you straight down. So just thinking about all the stuff I've dealt with in the past and where I want to be, drugs just have no part in any of that.
With everything that you've shared thus far, you're a very intelligent person. That's what I gather from listening to you. Talented with the music as well. And you seem very driven. But you're like anybody else. You've had your struggles, your bumps along the road, and I'm sure they were a lot less glamorous if we really got into those things.
Yeah.
But with where you are right now and with what you're trying to do, what are you trying to do? What are some hopes for Daniel? What do you hope to be able to do with your music? Where do you want to see yourself?
Okay. Well, I've probably been saying this the longest. What I would love to do, man, is just be able to take the music that I play and go out there and play it, and then be able to earn enough money to be able to just travel with it. You know what I'm saying? Like get myself a bus and hire a couple of folks to come along with me, and then we just go on just a long tour. You know what I mean? And just travel around wherever we can go and afford to go, and pay for the whole trip, with the music. And what I would like to do is just kind of scope out, everything during my travels and find a place that, to eventually settle down and, build a log cabin or something like that, and to, raise some chickens or goats and put solar panels on the log cabin and live off the grid or something, you know what I mean? That's the long term, but short term is just being able to just do what I love doing and make money doing it and travel. You know what I mean? That's really been it for as long as I can remember at this point. You know what I mean? Just being able to just express myself and express my art and get paid to do it. You know what I mean? That's the best feeling in the world is counting that money at the end of the night. You know what I mean? After, entertaining, hundreds of people, you know what I'm saying? That's the best. And so that's really all I need and all I want.
Well, Daniel, it's a real pleasure to get a chance to meet you, to begin to work with you. And I say begin because I am hopeful to be able to continue to work with you and continue to see where you go from here.
Yeah, right on.
One thing that we didn't get a chance to mention, but we will moving forward is, you've got some connections with certain types of organizations and groups that are doing things trying to help other people who have been incarcerated and who also struggle from and with addiction. So I'd love to be able to network with you in some regard with that, and also try to help you get more attention for your music.
Okay.
I think that you do something that you definitely do something that not a lot of people do. You play an instrument and you play like 5 of them, and you can do it all at the same time. And I think that that's just a really, really awesome thing. But I'll be curious to see where you're going from here. I'm hopeful that where you're going from here is just a continuation of where you are right now, only better. And I'm going to look forward to getting an update with you in the near future.
Okay, right on.
As we wrap this up, I want to ask you, is there anything that you'd like to say to everybody before we end this?
Well, I guess what I would say is going back on where you're saying, it seemed easy in my situation when I was getting out of jail the most recent time in my personal situation. No matter how much support one person might have or how little support the next person might have, every single struggle is different. But one thing that is alike for all of us, no matter if you've been using for 10 years or if you've only been using for 30 days, is that I don't think anybody really understands the true power that drugs can hold over you. And it doesn't matter if you're released out of jail to millionaire parents who can put you up in the nicest rehabs or whatever, or, if you get released, and you have to live into a bus stop. Addiction is extremely tough to just overcome. Most people are going to relapse. You know what I mean? That's just a part of it. You know what I mean? I think that other people who aren't addicted, understanding that and understanding how much of a struggle it is, and for people who are using to understand that we really are powerless against these drugs, is going to help everyone in the long run. That being said, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the struggle is real. Take it a day at a time. Be honest with yourself, and just do whatever you can to just leave it alone. Just let it go and leave it alone 100%, because that's really the only way it can be done. You know what I mean? And whatever support you have, use it, take advantage of it. And just keep telling yourself a day at a time, and you can get through it.
Daniel, again, a real pleasure getting a chance to meet with you today, and I look forward to talking with you again in the near future.
All right, right on.